Explain what kind of investment property suits you the best in just 3 minutes. I've noticed that many people have a very confused approach when buying investment properties. They haven't figured out what kind of property suits them, yet they jump straight into viewing specific houses. This is extremely risky because everyone's situation is different. What works for someone else might not work for you. A great property in someone else's portfolio could turn into a disaster for you. Basically, everyone's situation can be categorized into these 4 quadrants, depending on whether you have a lot of cash or not, or whether you have a lot of assets. If you have a lot of assets, you can cash them out and turn them into cash, and then there's your income, which is your cash flow. How much money you bring in each year. The more money you bring in, the more it affects your ability to get a loan. The higher your income, the more you can borrow. Based on these 2 factors, you can group yourself into 4 types. The first is ideal. You have lots of cash and a high income. What is this? It's the buy whatever you want scenario. You can buy as you like. Most people are in the other categories, and our goal is to move toward that first group. If you lack cash but have high income, you can rent out the property and use tax deductions. With these benefits, you have more cash, and at year end, you get a tax refund. Gradually, you move closer and closer to the first quadrant, right? What else is there? If your income is very high, that means your borrowing capacity is very strong. So what should you do? You should consider building a granny flat, because a granny flat costs about $100,000. And for that extra $100,000, you need an additional $80,000 in borrowing capacity, which you happen to have. Plus the depreciation on the granny flat can give you several $1,000s in tax deductions each year. So the granny flat option can also help you move into the first quadrant. Now let's look at the opposite example. You have a lot of cash, but your income is relatively low. What should you do then? You should prioritize doing a rooming house, which is essentially renting out rooms using $80,000 in cash. You take the cash out of your pocket, but what do you get in return? You get an asset with a rental yield of over 6%, which means you're putting your idle cash to use and turning it into a steady stream of cash flow. Doesn't that put you in the first quadrant? There's another option here. You can still go for a granny flat. But in this case, you might not even need a loan. You could just pay the full $100,000 in cash for the granny flat. But some younger folks might say, I don't have a lot of cash savings and I don't have a high salary either. What should I do? The strategy here is to buy in a good small town in a regional area. The advantage is that the house prices are usually between $400,000 and $600,000, and the rental yield is over 5%. Okay, so this solves both of your problems at the same time. Gradually, you'll be able to move into the first quadrant, but you can't have your cake and eat it too when it comes to small towns. There are additional risks involved. The volatility is higher than in big cities, but since you're young, you can hold onto this asset for a long time, so these short-term fluctuations won't really affect you. If you were in your early 60s and took on this kind of high volatility, that wouldn't be appropriate. So good property investment starts with good financial planning. I'm Jin Sanshi, and your property advisor in Melbourne.